Did CM Punk pressure AEW President Tony Khan to have him win the AEW World Championship at Double or Nothing last year? We've got an update on that rumour. Eddie Kingston has quit AEW, but now has arrived in Ring of Honor after last night's debut episode of ROH TV on Honor Club. We have the ratings for this week's edition of AEW Dynamite on TBS. The name that AEW President Tony Khan initially wanted to debut in the Face of the Revolution ladder match this week on Dynamite on TBS has been revealed. Commander, of course, made his AEW debut in that match, and he is firmly on WWE's radar, possibly signing him in the future. Miro, we've got an update on his AEW status as well as the status of Scorpio Sky and others. MJF reportedly said that Tully Blanchard shouldn't get as much promo time during the days of the Pinnacle on AEW television. Adam Cole's journey to an AEW in-ring return will be documented on AEW All Access. A no-holds-barred match has been officially announced for AEW Revolution this weekend, and could we see an all-elite women's show coming to television soon? Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. Let's start off dispelling a bit of a myth, a bit of a rumor that's been going around. Of course, I know there are so many YouTube channels and websites and accounts online that will have rumors and scoops and all that kind of stuff. Well, an update has emerged on a rumor that recently went around regarding the idea of CM Punk pressuring AEW President Tony Khan. The rumor, which was never, to be honest, reported by any reliable outlet, claimed that Punk had pressured Khan into having Punk beat Hangman Adam Page to win the AEW World Championship at Double or Nothing last year, and the original plan was a Page victory. Now, in case you couldn't work out for yourself that was a nonsense suggestion, Dave Meltzer is on the case to put your doubts to bed. In the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Meltzer writes, quote, "As far as rumor corrections, the story going around that Punk was originally going to lose to Adam Page at last year's Double or Nothing, but pressured Tony Khan to change the finish is not true. Punk was always winning that match. I had said before the match that it was me, that if it was me, I'd have Page win the first meeting and Punk win the title in Chicago, but Khan wanted the title on Punk months earlier, and that wasn't Punk's doing or pressuring. Talk of Punk never really went away after the incident at All Out, but it's definitely picked up recently as the time frame for him to have recovered from his torn triceps is approaching. It's still unclear whether Tony Khan will bring CM Punk back to AEW television, but of course if we get any more updates, we'll let you know. There were previously reports that the parties were in talks over a potential buyout of Punk's contract, with things reportedly getting caught up on the negotiations of a non-compete clause, which would imply a move to WWE being at least possible, but things have also gone quiet on that front. Kenny Omega, who was involved in the incident at All Out, has provided some comments, although he has said that everyone is restricted due to legal reasons on what they can or cannot say. We covered that previously on the channel. Meltzer also wrote in the Observer, quote, there are those who wanted to be able to tell their side, or at least have whatever the investigation ended up showing to be released, but none of that is going to happen. So if you're looking for at any point Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, CM Punk, Ace Steel to say anything, legally they cannot, and even the outcome and the findings of the investigation, they're not getting released either. Now, it was quite interesting as well because Britt Baker recently did a very in-depth interview with Brandon Walker on Wrestling. It's a podcast. We're going to kind of touch on this later on in the show. She spoke about a variety of topics, but she also spoke about the media scrum, which led to the fight backstage, that AEW All Out post-show media scrum, in which obviously CM Punk said inflammatory things about the likes of Scott Colton, also known as Colt Cabana, Hangman Page, The Elite, etc. And she had some interesting views on it. She said, quote, "Speaking solely on what I watched, because that's all I saw, and the scrum and what I heard, as someone who loves AEW more than anything in the world and has so much pride, and at a time where I feel like something special, some of the biggest names in professional wrestling were fighting for the same team, especially after a huge pay-per-view. That pay-per-view was amazing, one of the biggest houses we've ever had. That scrum was heartbreaking. It was embarrassing and it was disappointing because it felt like in this moment in time, it felt like a disaster. You never want that to happen, and it happens every day. There are days I stub my toe on the dental office. Oh my God, this is a disaster. But you never want that feeling. That was a time in AEW where I was like, this sucks. Just me speaking personally. I think the scrums are cool because it's after a pay-per-view and you get to speak to these wrestlers, and there's a lot of emotion, and they get to talk to you about what's going on in the ring, their feelings, their storylines. It humanizes these larger-than-life wrestlers. That time needs to be used proactively and responsibly. If I sit here and tell you nothing but everyone I hate, everything I'm mad at, or all the Twitter lies about me and debunk them, that's not proactive. It would be selfish of me to use your time and the world's time like that. I would rather put over the pay-per-view and all the awesome stuff in AEW. Is that other stuff there? Of course there are people I don't like. Of course. Are there things I don't like? Of course. I'm still a soldier for AEW. I'm on the front lines and I'm going to put it over. So certainly interesting that she would say those things, saying that it was disappointing and it upset her. And I don't think that Britt Baker is alone in sharing that sentiment about what happened after AEW All Out last September. Now, Eddie Kingston, of course, has been a big topic of conversation, and we've got a major update on his future after he quit AEW. Well, guess who turned up in Ring of Honor after unceremoniously having declared they have quit All Elite Wrestling this past Wednesday? You got it, partner. After winning his match against AR Fox to retain the Ring of Honor World Championship, Claudio Castagnoli was met by Eddie Kingston, who appeared for an After the Bell on the first episode of the new Ring of Honor television show. Kingston came to the ring with a microphone and informed the champion, guess what? I'm an independent contractor, dog. I'm 1099. Know how I promised Mox I wouldn't beat your ass at AEW. This ain't AEW. I'm coming for your championship. After going on to taunt Claudio a bit more, Castagnoli took the mic and then promptly dropped it to leave the ring and go up the ramp without any discernible reaction. As the crowd went wild for Eddie Kingston, Claudio put the Ring of Honor World Championship title bout on and simply headed backstage. While it was a bit of an odd exchange to end the debut edition, it was certainly a setup for a major new feud that will surely define the new era of Ring of Honor wrestling. Certainly was a jam-packed episode as well. And Tony Khan himself spoke about his reaction to Eddie Kingston quitting AEW. This was on the AEW Revolution media call that took place yesterday. Tony Khan said, quote, I have talked to Eddie since Wednesday, and I would encourage people to stay tuned to pro wrestling, stay tuned to AEW and other forms of pro wrestling. Of course, there are a lot of exciting things happening in the sport, in AEW, and also out metaverse of pro wrestling, including New Japan and the launch of the new Ring of Honor. A lot of exciting things happening. I have had the chance to talk to Eddie about that, and I say stay tuned to the wrestling business because you'll see what happens next. And of course, what happened next was Eddie Kingston arriving in Ring of Honor. Now, there have been 3 big title matches that have been announced for Ring of Honor next week as the new era of Ring of Honor has begun for the subscribers of Honor Club. Answering an open challenge offer from Ring of Honor Pure Champion Wheeler Yuta, Timothy Thatcher will be ready to face off for the title next week. After winning a match against Lady Frost, Willow Nightingale hopped on the microphone to make her intentions clear. She wants a shot at Ring of Honor Women's World Champion Athena for the title after touting her winning record in Ring of Honor so far. Ask and you shall receive, as the champion Athena came out to the ramp to accept the challenge. Also scheduled for next week, a Ring of Honor Television Championship match pitting Samoa Joe against the former champion Tony Deppen. Elsewhere on the debut episode of Ring of Honor on Honor Club, there was a big match kicking off the night between Slim J and Mark Briscoe, of course one half of the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. Now, ahead of the relaunch show, it was revealed that AEW's Mascara Dorada, who previously wrestled as Grand Metalik in WWE, would be on the show going by his WWE name. It would then be clarified that he would now be simply referred to as Metalik. Dave Meltzer has now used the current issue of the Wrestling Observer newsletter to clear up any confusion, explaining, quote, the story behind the Metalik name is that he owns it and used it in Mexico in 2007 on the Indies, and even CMLL prior to becoming Mascara Dorada in 2008. WWE owns Grand Metalik, but not Metalik. He would have more name recognition in the US as Metalik, of course, but it's not necessarily a plus since he wasn't used well in WWE. He's been working as Mascara Dorada for New Japan Pro Wrestling's US shows and did one match as Mascara Dorada in AEW. From what we are told, he's planning on being Mascara Dorada going forward in New Japan Pro Wrestling and when he returns to CMLL. Right now, it's very tough for him because he wants to work in Japan and Mexico, but until his green card comes through, who knows when that will be since he's been working on it for a long time. The hope right now is May, but that's out of everyone's hands. He can't leave the US. When he gets it, he'll return to Arena Mexico for at least some dates. So a bit like a lot of people in pro wrestling at the moment, Metalik is kind of landlocked. So at the moment, he's just kind of working the New Japan US shows, Ring of Honor, and maybe some AEW shots as well. The ratings are in for this week's edition of Dynamite, and honestly, for a go-home episode to a big pay-per-view, they're not that great. Last week, the viewership figure for AEW's flagship show Dynamite rebounded in a big way, posting its best Nielsen ratings since October. That was thanks, presumably, to a lack of NBA basketball competition. This past Wednesday, however, the NBA was back opposite Dynamite on ESPN, and it took a big bite out of the viewership of the AEW show's live and West Coast premiere broadcasts. According to reporting from WrestleNomics and ShowBuzz Daily, the March 1st go-home show for this Sunday's Revolution pay-per-view event averaged 833,000 total viewers, approximately 352,000 of which were in the vaunted key demo, most valued by advertisers, adults aged 18 to 49. The latter figure translated to a 0.27 18 to 49 rating, placing Dynamite third in ShowBuzz Daily's rankings for Wednesday's top 150 cable originals. The total viewership figure represented a 19% drop from the prior week, while the key demographic number dropped 22%. In the analysis of the ratings compared to the median of the prior 4 weeks of the WrestleNomics Patreon page, Dynamite was down 7% in total viewers and 11% in the key demographic. Amongst the other median comparisons tracked by WrestleNomics, Wednesday's show showed its strongest gains in female viewers aged 12 to 34 with an 8% increase. Adults aged 35 to 49, 25 to 54, and 50 plus saw smaller percentage gains at 1%, 3%, and 3% again, respectively. By far, the biggest percentage drop over the median, perhaps unsurprisingly given the NBA competition, came in adults aged 18 to 34, where the March 1st show declined by 27%. Certainly a big drop-off when it comes to the go-home show, but a drop-off that I suppose was expected given the competition. Now, this is quite an interesting story, actually. Of course, the March 1st episode of AEW Dynamite saw the debut of Commander in the face of the Revolution ladder match, but he wasn't actually the top choice of AEW President Tony Khan. The match saw Eddie Kingston, AR Fox, Powerhouse Hobbs, Action Andretti, Sammy Guevara, Commander, Ortiz, and Konosuke Takeshita face off for a shot for the TNT Championship at a later date. Dave Meltzer, writing in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, has revealed that Tony Khan wanted someone else to debut in the match, writing, quote, Tony Khan wanted El Hijo del Vikingo to debut in the ladder match, but he wasn't available, so the office asked for Commander. Meltzer would also reveal that, quote, Commander, who debuted in the ladder match with no build-up at all, was not under contract when put on the show. We're also going to touch on a little bit later on when it comes to actually people being interested in the AEW debutante this week. Of course, the match was eventually won by Powerhouse Hobbs, who was able to scale the ladder and capture the giant gold ring for his future championship opportunity. Now, speaking of Commander, again, he had a standout performance in the match, doing death-defying things that you can see right there on the screen. But what is quite interesting is that Dave Meltzer has confirmed that Commander was not under contract to AEW and is actually under contract to a promotion called Chaos, K-A-O-Z, in Mexico. Meltzer writes, quote, Commander, who debuted on Dynamite in the ladder match with no build-up at all, was not under contract when put on the show and is very much on the WWE's radar. Commander is actually under contract with the Chaos promotion in Mexico and not sure how that would impact his ability to actually sign with WWE or AEW. But he couldn't sign with either right now without approval of Chaos, which again is quite interesting that he's under contract to that little or lesser known Mexican promotion, but no surprise certainly that WWE is interested. Of course, they signed Dragon Lee on the back of an impressive Dynamite performance last year too, so certainly not too much of a surprise there. Now, what's going on with Miro in AEW? Well, to be honest, the answer is really nothing. Last appearing at All Out in 2022, Miro's match record in AEW before that pay-per-view was sporadic at best. It had previously been reported that AEW Creative had pitched a story to Miro, but the Bulgarian powerhouse had turned it down. Dave Meltzer would claim that a lot of people coming from WWE were cautious of losing to their opponents and suggested that the former Lana saying that Miro wanted to return to WWE was a contributing factor in Miro's lack of a push in AEW. Miro responded to this by asking what happened between January and June, referring to his last appearance on AEW in 2021, that being November, and his next appearance in June of 2022. Since the previous reports on Miro's status, Fightful Select has reported that Miro is healthy and ready to go, but there has been no update on creative discussions between him and AEW itself. As for Miro's AEW contract status, Fightful Select also reported that he has several years left on his contract as he signed a 4-year extension a year or so ago. So again, Miro doesn't look like he's going anywhere, but he's ready to go, but there's nothing creatively for him right now. And a bit of a similar story when it comes to Scorpio Sky in All Elite Wrestling as well. Scorpio Sky hasn't been seen on AEW television since Dynamite in July, where he lost the TNT Championship to Wardlow. Back in November 2022, it was reported that Scorpio Sky had been sidelined with a leg injury, though was at the time cleared and ready to go. The issue was, however, that AEW Creative had no plans for Scorpio Sky. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select has now provided an update on the former AEW TNT champion, reporting that he is still healthy to wrestle and he was backstage at Impact Wrestling's No Surrender pay-per-view, but hasn't been at many AEW Dynamites as of late. There was reportedly some AEW talent surprised not to see him at the LA show in early January, considering of course it's his hometown. Scorpio Sky, per Fightful Select's reports, has several years left on his contract. He revealed in 2021 that he had signed a 5-year extension with the company, so he's got a very similar situation to Miro, really, whereby he's ready to go, but there's just no creative for him right now. Now, he's not the only person who's off television at the moment. In addition to providing the status on both Miro and Scorpio Sky, Sean Ross Sapp has provided an update on the status of the likes of Hikaru Shida, Chris Statlander, and Layla Hirsch as well. Of Shida, Sean Ross Sapp reports that the former AEW Women's World Champion has barely wrestled this year, though worked a couple of matches on the Jericho Cruise. She has been dealing with a finger injury and is currently in Japan. Chris Statlander, of course, underwent surgery for a completely torn ACL and a maternal meniscus in September 2022 for the injury sustained in August. She has, according to Fightful Select, been backstage at several AEW shows in recent months and was at both the Lexington and Toronto shows. Layla Hirsch underwent knee surgery in May 2022 and is slowly getting there. However, there's been no update as to when she will resume in-ring training to make an AEW return. She suffered her knee injury during the April 2022 episode of AEW Dark Elevation that brought her match to an end, and the referee threw up the dreaded X symbol. Of course, we wish them all the best in their recoveries from injuries, but that's the case for all of them. They're currently injured. Now, the Pinnacle, a faction that was deemed dead on arrival by Dax Harwood recently, and an AEW star has claimed that MJF rejected someone else having promo time. Dave Meltzer reported in the Current Wrestling Observer newsletter that Dax Harwood on MJF, Tully Blanchard, and the Pinnacle from his podcast. He brought up a promo segment where they were together, and he and Cash Wheeler pushed for Blanchard to have promo time in the segment and claimed that MJF turned that down. Referencing comments that the Pinnacle were DOA, Meltzer would quote Harwood as saying, quote, "Me and Cash, we would sacrifice us and sacrifice our cool stuff to give something to Tully always. Whether it was the match with, we'll talk about it later, Darby and Sting, where Tully was the factor and the reason the match ended. We always gave him time to talk, because if we didn't, then our group was dead in the water, because then it was just 3 people together. So before this promo, I remember talking to Max and I said, hey, I think we should allow Tully to do some of the talking, because that promo was 10 minutes long or whatever." Max was like, no, I really think I should do all the talking. I'm like, yeah, but we've got one of the greatest talkers of all time, Tully Blanchard, and he's our manager, and he's the reason we're all tied together. I think he should say a little something. Max didn't see it my way, and so Tully just sat in the back, and so did everybody else. Blanchard, of course, confirmed his departure from AEW in January, describing the situation as complex, but his contract was up. AEW announcer Tony Schiavone would reflect on Blanchard's departure on his What Happened When podcast, revealing it had been fun to work with Blanchard once again, but it would appear that his time in the pro wrestling business is now done, as he's not going to be anywhere anytime soon. Adam Cole is on his way back to in-ring action in AEW, and Adam Cole may not be on the card for AEW Revolution, but the star will be ready to cause another boom in the company not so long after the event. Recently, the 2022 Owen Hart Cup winner, Cole, announced he'll be returning to the ring on March 8, and also unveiled AEW's new reality series, AEW All Access, which will premiere immediately following that night's AEW Dynamite broadcast. On Thursday's media call with Tony Khan prior to Revolution, the AEW boss made clear that Cole's return to the ring will have synergy with AEW All Access's debut, as the premiere episode will look at Cole's long-awaited comeback after the very scary concussion he suffered during last year's Forbidden Door pay-per-view. Khan shared his excitement for making Cole a primary focus for AEW once again, and noted that fans will get to see behind-the-curtain look at the star's struggle with the injury, as well as the support he received from his girlfriend and fellow AEW star Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. It was in mid-January when Cole made a surprise appearance in front of the live crowd in Los Angeles, initially putting his wrestling future in question. Thankfully, Cole's reveal had a happy ending as he let fans know he has made a full recovery from the concussion and was now cleared to wrestle. Ever since debuting in AEW, Cole has been positioned as a heel, but his feel-good return to the ring has immediately put him in the spotlight as one of the company's new top babyfaces. And again, certainly it's going to be interesting to see him develop and see his road to recovery on this reality series as well. Now, speaking of Britt Baker, this is quite an interesting one. Of course, she's been associated with Rebel recently, but it looks like now she's been pulled from television. With Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter currently feuding with Saraya and Toni Storm, the dynamics for Britt Baker have changed since her earlier work in AEW. Embracing the babyface red carpet, the team of the Pillar and the Killer are the good guys in the battle with Saraya and Storm. This has left Baker's former associate Rebel a bit of a loose end. However, writing in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer provided an update on Rebel, saying, quote, "Rebel is no longer being used. We were told that with Baker and Hayter as babyfaces now, that it was felt she didn't work as part of that act at this point in time." Rebel joined AEW in August 2019 in a backstage role where she would remain until making her TV debut on Dynamite as Britt Baker's exclusive makeup artist and personal assistant. She would be a recurring character on screen until she suffered a dislocated kneecap in June 2021, and then after she recovered until now being pulled off of TV. So it would appear that Rebel is no more on AEW TV, but is still with the company. Now, speaking of Revolution this coming Sunday, a match has now been officially announced for the show. A new no-holds-barred match has been made official for this weekend's AEW Revolution pay-per-view following this week's edition of Dynamite. Christian Cage made his return to the show 2 weeks ago, attacking Jack Perry to continue their feud from last year. On this week's show, Christian Cage challenged Jack Perry to a match at Revolution, which led to Perry appearing on the Tron. Perry was digging a grave for Christian before it was announced the two would face off in a no-rules match at Revolution, or a fight, according to Christian, but people didn't really know what it was. Was this going to be a Buried Alive match? Was this going to be a fight? Was this going to be a cinematic match? What was it going to be? Well, since then, AEW has officially announced that Christian and Jack Perry will face off in a no-holds-barred match at Revolution. Christian and Jungle Boy last wrestled at All Out, which Christian quickly won after Luchasaurus attacked Jungle Boy during his entrance. Since then, Christian has been out of action with an injury, and seemingly this will mark his return to in-ring competition. Finally, could we see an All Elite Women's show on AEW television in the future? In August 2022, AEW filed a trademark for All Elite Women under the category of entertainment services and various merchandise products. However, fans have been wondering what the intention of the trademark was after it was never utilized. During the AEW Revolution media call, Tony Khan was asked about if All Elite Women could eventually become a show. He answered, quote, "I would love to have that show be a show that gets picked up. It is an idea I had for a show and something I would love to do. All Elite Women, that's why I filed the trademark. I think it's a good idea. We have a great women's roster and I would love to utilize them as much as possible. Any time we can develop more programming to feature our roster, it's something that is a great opportunity for the company and the wrestlers. In the case of the women's locker room, there is a number of really deserving talents and people we feature on TV regularly and people I'd like to feature more. That was the idea behind All Elite Women. That's still an idea. I think it would be a great thing if it ever gets picked up." All Elite Wrestling has added more programming to its schedule with the announcement of their upcoming one-hour reality television show entitled AEW All Access, which is set to premiere in March following Dynamite. Whether or not All Elite Women ever gets picked up, we'll have to wait and see. But there you go, guys. That's the latest AEW news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. Remember, you can join the WN365 roster by clicking that join button. Let me know your thoughts on today's AEW news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.